We are back with our midweek NFL DFS update, and here is exactly what we are changing from yesterday and why. At quarterback, we are pivoting off yesterday's Josh Allen and moving back to Jared Goff at 6,300 against the Steelers, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 23. Goff carries a 100 dash rank with a reliable 19 fantasy points per game, recent 29, 19, and 21, and an 18-point projection at just 4.87% ownership. The news cycle backs the ceiling we're buying. Multiple pieces spotlighted his dominance in the Lions' 44-30 win over Dallas, and the attention that followed, including the league's post-game procedure delay and coverage of the Rams-Lions trade as a rare win-win. We prefer the softer overall matchup and ownership discount relative to Allen, while keeping a stable projection from a long-time starter. Running back is a change from yesterday's Devon Achane to Bijan Robinson at 8,700 versus the Cardinals, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 26. Bijan's 100 dash rank, 22 fantasy points per game, recent 31, 10, and 33, and a 23-point projection with 19.3% ownership put us on higher touch volume and red zone equity. Reporting this week included Raheem Morris's post-game admission while calling out special teams mistakes, and that tone reinforced how central Bijan is to the offensive plan. We are prioritizing his touch count and slate-winning upside in a favorable overall matchup. We are switching our wide receiver from yesterday's DK Metcalf to Nico Collins at 7,500 against the Raiders, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 22. Collins has a 100 dash rank, 17 fantasy points per game, recent 24, 19, and 22, a 17-point projection, and 6.33% ownership. A recent preview piece specifically called out the Texans' passing pieces, giving Collins a positive fantasy verdict heading into a big spot slate. This is single-digit ownership on an alpha profile in a soft overall matchup, so we like the price-adjusted ceiling. At tight end, we are moving off yesterday's Trey McBride and onto Kyle Pitts Sr. at 5,000 against the Cardinals, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 26. Pitts holds a 100 dash rank with 13 fantasy points per game, a monster 49 one game ago after 15 and 15, and a 13-point projection at essentially unowned levels. This week's reporting noted league-wide interest in Pitts, while head coach Raheem Morris talked as if he will be sticking around, which supports role stability. We are leaning into the leverage created by near-zero ownership on a player with proven spike-week ability in a favorable overall matchup. Flex is a change from yesterday's Omarion Hampton to Travis Kelce at 4,700 against the Titans, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 28. Kelce has a 100 dash rank, 13 fantasy points per game, recent 14, 2, and 16, and an 11-point projection at 8.27% ownership. News this week underscored that he plans to play out the final stretch and also address the brief media silence narrative, which matters because we care about confirmed availability and role more than speculation. Price plus matchup plus proven ceiling keeps him firmly in play at flex. Defense is a move from yesterday's Chiefs to the Texans at 4,000 versus the Raiders, who have the absolute worst defense overall by opponent rank at 32. The Texans carry a 100 dash rank with a 12-point projection and 9.53% ownership, and they've posted 7, 12, and 2 fantasy points in their last 3. One preview piece even labeled Houston the best defense in football in its matchup breakdown, and we get to pair that confidence with the absolute worst defense overall on the other side for game environment leverage. Quick recap versus yesterday. Goff over Allen for a softer overall matchup and ownership leverage. Bijan over Achane for touch volume and a favorable overall matchup. Collins over Metcalf for single-digit ownership on a strong alpha profile. Pitts over McBride for leverage in a favorable overall matchup. Kelsey over Hampton to buy proven upside at a depressed price in a soft overall matchup, and Texans DST over Chiefs to align with a confident defensive profile and the absolute worst defense overall on the other side. Value section now. We are holding punt quarterback Quinn Ewers at 4,000 against the Bengals, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank. At 31, he projects for 14 with about 3.7% ownership. But remember, projected points are unreliable because he has not started at least 3 games. The news confirms his first NFL start after the Dolphins benched Tua Tagovailoa, with Steve Sarkisian publicly backing Ewers, so this remains a tournament-only salary saver that opens builds. Deep value running back is Alec Ingold at 4,000 in the same Bengals matchup, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 31. This is a pure punt play at roughly 1% ownership to unlock salary in large fields where every dollar matters. Salary-saving wide receiver is Trey Harris at 3,300 versus the Cowboys, who have the absolute worst defense overall by opponent rank at 32. He projects for 4 with about 1.97% ownership, and the recent reporting around his rookie deal and camp storylines keeps him on the radar as a thin but viable punt tied to the best overall matchup on the slate. Value tight end is Julian Hill at 2,500 against the Bengals, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 31. He projects for 2 at negligible ownership and is strictly a salary release option to jam studs. Cheap flex dart is Tommy Tremble at 2,500 versus the Buccaneers, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 24. He projects for 3 and is a touchdown or bust salary saver best reserved for massive field tournaments. If you need a bargain defense, we like the Jets at 2,100 against the Saints, who have one of the worst defenses overall by opponent rank at 27. They project for 6 with roughly 8.57% ownership, offering savings and leverage in builds that spend up elsewhere. That is our midweek stance and the why behind each change, anchored by opponent rank, ownership, recent production, and the week's reporting, including the Goff spotlight after the Cowboys game, Raheem Morris's comments on Bijan, the favorable Collins outlook, the Pitts role stability notes, Kelsey's late-season plans, and the Texans' defensive praise heading into this spot.